Chapter 28, 100 Years of Ineptitude. Year 100 of my very personal inspection tour of the dairy business on finest Columbia was nothing to brag about. The best clue I came across was back in year 86 of the tour, and it concerned eggs. The result from the FCDC lab had been inconclusive, just not enough there to go on, though I still had my suspicions. Carlos Pelosi was both wily and deceptive, and who knows, he may have anticipated my egg buying scheme and had snatched out eggs on me. Had switched out eggs on me. You don't become a coffee shamba oligarch on what used to be called the coffee plant planet by being easy to manipulate. But the chicken and egg angle was still open in my book, even if the chicken coop had been transported to another planet. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I had lost a lot of sleep in the last 14 years wondering what came first, the cow or the egg. 98% of the planet had been traversed, inspected, and cataloged. In 3 more years, I should finish the job, and then I would move on to the next star system, Sigma Draconis. My final team, which had been with me for the past 2 years, was another married duo, Loci Stargazer and his wife, further than the eye can see. We called her Ferdy T. Loci was a doctor of bovinity from the Dairy Institute of Technology, and Ferdy T was a botanist and wool gatherer from the islands of the stream in the Andromeda Galaxy. They made quite a pair, and I thought of them as the perfect members for the last search team I would be associated with on the tour. We were only about 50 miles south of Ernestine, which was our final destination, but the area between us and Ernestine was the most heavily populated in terms of dairy cattle. That's why I figured 1 to 2 more years to complete our mission. If I might digress, I would like to discuss an incident that happened at sunset earlier in the week. Loci says it was a Fata Morgana, but I'm not so sure. We were coming out of the forest after a hard day of looking under rocks and searching for ghosts in the trees when I spotted what looked like a medium-sized 4-footed animal running awkwardly across the hill closest to us, about 500 feet distant. The animal's shape and form were evocative of an earth creature that I was familiar with from my first couple of thousand years on Earth, but had disappeared during the 490-year duration of the New Hebrew Empire. If my memory was serving me correctly, I was seeing a pig. Chapter 29, Just a Hunch. Despite Loci's and Ferdy T's admonitions, I couldn't let the pig sighting go. I decided I needed some wisdom and sagacity on the subject, and the only person who could help me was the sage of Sirius, academic agent. I had received a sublight memo from Phineas Cope that AA was on vacation and was spending it in an isolated cabin on the far reaches of Phineas's plantation. Phineas's plantation, Phineas has sent me the coordinates, and I was ready to go see AA. I think it's a wild goose chase, Nick, but if you got to go, we understand. Ferdy T and I will handle things while you're gone, Loci said. I know you will, and thanks. I shouldn't be gone long. I mentally logged in the coordinates, reactivated the SPNV, and dematerialized into the ineffable ether. When I materialized in the front yard of the cabin AA was staying in, I was greeted with a welcoming, "Howdy, stranger," from a man with a flowing gray beard sitting on a log with a knife whittling on a section of a tree limb. He was totally unperturbed, calm and serene as the day is long. "You're my first visitor in 6 months. How about a cup of CC, Centauri cider? I've been saving it for a special occasion, and this one will just have to do." He laughed, and I poured 2 cups. I accepted gratefully and took a hearty quaff. I hadn't drank any CC since being on Sin Plan A, and it really hit the spot. AA asked me, "Now what can I do for you?" I know you didn't come here just to look at my old mug. I described the pig sighting and asked AA, do you think it was a mirage? AA looked solemn as he spoke. No, Dick, I think you saw the real thing, a pig prancing over the plains. So it was a good sign, not a poor sign? Poor sign, for sure. Thanks, AA. As usual, you've been most helpful. Enjoy your vacation. And with that, I headed back to the team. Supper was waiting for me at the campsite. Ferdy T had made a special dish endemic to the Andromeda galaxy. It was comprised of stardust and broccoli. I'm not normally a fan of broccoli, but the stardust seemed to bring out some tasty aspects of broccoli that I didn't know existed. And even though I wasn't hungry, due to drinking CC at AA's, I did the polite thing and finished off 2 plates of broccoli, a la stardust. Chapter 30, Artful Dodgers. After supper, we discussed my trip to the academic ancient. Nick, Ferdy T and I agree. If AA says it's a pig, then it's a pig. He's been right too many times in the past 5 million years to bet against him now, Loci said. I looked at Ferdy T. So you agree? Ferdy T had a mind of her own. If she did agree, I knew it came from her own thinking on the subject. Ferdy T replied, I had my doubts, but I'm with Loci. When AA speaks, the rest of us listen. But, Loci interjected, we thought pigs no longer existed. Didn't the new Hebrew Empire exterminate all of them when it dominated Earth? There are no pigs on Earth except for several large herds maintained by the Sloppy Barbecue outfit. Sloppy was given an exemption by the new Hebrew Empire after protesters outside Jerusalem vowed to destroy the temple if the exemption was not given. The Pope, who was a big fan of Sloppies, even interceded, promising he would absolve all Hebrews of sin if they ate at Sloppies, I replied. But how did they get off of Earth? We know the Syrians transported cattle to relevant parts of the galaxy, but there's no public record of the same thing happening to pigs. Loci knew his Earth history. It could only be through a smuggling operation, and we know the Syrians couldn't be involved. They can be tough and uncompromising, and they love making money, but they are honest to the point of annoyance, I said. And they're too proud to do anything that would sully their reputation, Ferdy T added. So the trillions of dollars of debt question, this phrase came into being during the first half of the 21st century, is who's smuggling the pigs, and does that have anything to do with the dairy cows drying up? Loci was no longer looking at us as he spoke, but was instead gazing over to the hill where he once thought I'd seen a mirage. There were no more pig sightings for the next couple of weeks. During that time, we performed our usual duties of identifying underperforming dairy cattle. It was a thankless task. It was the middle of winter, and the planet was in the midst of a mini ice age. The finest Colombian government was pumping tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, hoping to warm things up. I didn't have the heart to tell them that it probably wouldn't work. Climate cycles come and go, but the dreams of laundrymen never die.